The alarm bells rang through the massive space station like thunder. Red lights flashed in every corridor as thousands of beings from across the galaxy rushed to their posts. Harmony's Edge, the neutral meeting place of the Galactic Council, had never seen such panic in its 3,000 years of operation. Ji-won Kim sat quietly in the human section of the Great Assembly Hall. Her dark eyes watched as alien representatives shouted at each other in dozens of different languages. The translation devices could barely keep up with all the angry voices. Next to her, Captain Minho Park shifted nervously in his seat. His fingers drummed against the armrest of his chair. "This is bad," Minho whispered to Ji-won. "Really bad." Ji-won nodded but said nothing. She had seen the reports. She knew what was coming. The question was whether anyone else was ready for it. At the center of the hall, a massive holographic display showed star maps of the outer galaxy. Red markers indicated destroyed worlds. There were already 12 of them, and more appeared, every hour. Each red dot meant billions of dead beings. Council Speaker Thyzon, a tall insect-like creature with 4 arms, tried to bring order to the chaos. His voice boomed through the speakers. "Please, honored representatives, we must work together. The threat is real. The Velthari Empire has returned." A collective gasp went through the hall. Even though everyone had heard the reports, hearing it said officially made it real. The Velthari were the monsters from ancient history. They were the empire that had ruled half the galaxy 50,000 years ago before mysteriously disappearing. A blue-skinned delegate from the Etherian colonies stood up. "Our outer settlements have gone silent. We sent 3 battle groups to investigate. None came back. How do we fight something like this?" "The same way our ancestors did," growled Ambassador Korax, the representative from the warrior species, called the Kelvani. "We unite our fleets and fight." "With what?" The crystalline being from the Luxite worlds chimed in with a voice like breaking glass. "Our ships are children's toys compared to what the ancient records describe. The Velthari had weapons that could destroy stars." Ji-won felt her communication device vibrate against her wrist. She glanced down and saw a coded message from Earth. Her blood went cold as she read it. After 800 years of waiting, the time had finally come. The debate continued around her, but Ji-won was no longer listening. She was thinking about the secret that humanity had kept for so long. They had joined the Galactic Council 200 years ago as a small, seemingly weak species from a single world. Everyone thought humans were just another primitive race that had barely learned to travel between stars. They had no idea how wrong they were. "The Velthari bioships are unlike anything we have ever faced," Speaker Thyzon continued. "They are, grown not built. They heal themselves, they learn from each battle. Our intelligence suggests they have awakened with a fleet of over 10,000 vessels." The number hit the assembly like a physical blow. 10,000 ships was larger than the combined fleets of the 3 biggest council members. And these were not ordinary ships. These were vessels from the time when the galaxy was young. Captain Minho leaned closer to Ji-won. "What does Earth Command want us to do?" Ji-won looked at him with sad eyes. "They want us to come home. All human ships, all human personnel, we are being recalled." "Recalled? Now? When everyone needs to work together?" "There are things you don't know, Minho. Things that very few people know." She stood up and gathered her papers. "We need to leave. Immediately." As they prepared to go, the Great Hall's main screen flickered. A new image appeared and everyone fell silent. It was a Velthari bioship, but this one was different. It was massive, easily 10 times larger than anything they had seen before. Its organic hull pulsed with veins of dark energy. A voice spoke from the ship. It was ancient and cold, like the sound of ice breaking in deep space. "I am Veltar Supreme, ruler of the First Empire. For 50,000 years we have slept. Now, we have awakened to find our galaxy filled with inferior species." The being that appeared on screen was tall and thin, with pale skin that seemed to glow from within. Its eyes were completely black, and when it moved it seemed to flow like liquid. "You have 1 galactic standard month to submit to our rule. Bring us tribute." Acknowledge our dominance. Those who comply will be allowed to serve. Those who resist will be eliminated. This is not a negotiation, this is a fact. The transmission ended, leaving the assembly in shocked silence. Speaker Thizon was the first to find his voice. We must prepare our defenses, contact all member worlds, begin evacuation of outer colonies. But many delegates were already leaving. Some species had decided that surrender was better than extinction. Others were rushing home to prepare their own defenses. The unity of the council was breaking apart before the threat had even truly begun. Jiwan and Minho made their way through the crowded corridors toward their ship. Around them, beings from dozens of worlds packed their belongings and said goodbye to friends they might never see again. Jiwan, Minho said as they walked. What did you mean about things I don't know? What is Earth hiding? She stopped and looked at him. Minho had been her friend for 15 years. He had served on her ship through 3 different exploration missions. He deserved to know the truth even if he would not believe it at first. Minho, what do you know about human history? Real history, not the official version. We developed space travel 300 years ago. We explored the local systems for 100 years before making contact with the Council. We have been members for 200 years. That is what everyone believes. But it is not the whole truth. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Humans have been traveling between stars for much longer than anyone knows, and we have been preparing for this day for 800 years. Minho stared at her. Preparing for what day? The day the Velthari returned. They reached their ship, a small diplomatic vessel called Soul's Promise. As they boarded, Jiwan could see other human ships throughout the docking bay. All of them were leaving at the same time. To outside observers, it might look like humans were abandoning the Council in its darkest hour. They had no idea that humanity was actually going home to reveal the greatest secret in galactic history. As Soul's Promise departed from Harmony's edge, Jiwan stood on the bridge and watched the space station grow smaller behind them. Around them, ships from every member species were scattering in all directions. Some were heading home to prepare defenses. Others were fleeing toward the galactic core, hoping distance would save them. None of them knew that salvation would come from the species they considered the weakest of all. Set course for Earth, Jiwan ordered. Maximum speed. What about the other Council species? Minho asked. Are we really going to abandon them? Jiwan smiled for the first time since the crisis began. We are not abandoning anyone, we are going to save them all. But first we need to go home and wake up the fleet that has been sleeping for 8 centuries. As their ship jumped into hyperspace, heading toward Earth, Jiwan thought about what was waiting there, hidden in the outer solar system, beyond where any alien ship had ever traveled, was humanity's true strength. Ships that officially did not exist. Weapons that should not be possible. Technology that would shock the galaxy. The Velthari thought they were returning to reclaim their empire from primitive species. They were about to learn that one of those species had been expecting them for a very long time. The message was simple, but it took 3 days to write. Every word had to be approved by representatives from all major species. Every phrase was analyzed for possible misunderstandings. The final text was only 3 sentences long, but those 3 sentences would end 3,000 years of silence. To the Terran Federation, the Galactic Confederation acknowledges your continued existence and requests dialogue regarding current cosmic events. We recognize that the isolation protocol was established for mutual benefit, but circumstances may require reconsideration. Please respond when convenient. Kixithera read the message one final time before sending it. She was sitting in the communication center of Monitoring Station Beta 7, surrounded by the most advanced alien technology in the galaxy. The transmission array could send signals across thousands of light years instantly using quantum entanglement technology. Are you ready? Asked Commander Korthmagus. Kixithera looked around the room. Representatives from every major species were present, either in person or via holographic link. Everyone looked nervous. This was the most important moment in galactic history since the original isolation protocol. Send the message, she said. The transmission array activated with a low hum. Energy readings spiked as the quantum signal was encoded and transmitted toward the heart of human space. Within seconds, the message was traveling faster than light, toward its destination. Now they had to wait. "How long before we get a response?" asked Zyphthalios.
"If humans follow standard communication protocols, we should hear back within 6 hours," Korthmagus replied. "But humans do not always follow standard protocols. They waited 6 hours, then 12, then 24. Just as some representatives
Began to suggest that humans might not respond at all. The communication array activated. An incoming message was being received, but it was not coming from human space. "The signal is originating from Sector 12, reported the communications officer. "That is only 2 light years from our current position." "Impossible," said the Draconian general. "Our sensors would have detected any ships in this area." The message was audio only, spoken in perfect galactic standard. "Greetings, Monitoring Station Beta 7. This is Dr. Kim Tae-hyun, Director of Terran External Relations. Permission to dock?" Everyone in the communication center stared at each other, in shock. Humans were already here. They had been waiting. "How long have you been in this system?" Korthmagus asked carefully. "Approximately 72 hours, came the reply. "We detected unusual activity at your monitoring station and decided to investigate. Your message confirmed our suspicions that formal contact was being considered." "You have been watching us?" "We have been watching everyone for 3,000 years, Commander, just as you have been watching us." Within an hour, a human ship docked with the monitoring station. It was unlike anything Kixthera had ever seen. The vessel seemed to bend light around itself, making it difficult to look at directly. Even docked, their sensors could barely detect it. Dr. Kim Tae-hyun was not what Kixthera had expected. He was a middle-aged human male, average height, with dark hair and kind eyes. He looked completely ordinary. If she had passed him on the Yo Street, she would never have guessed he represented the most feared species in the galaxy. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," he said as he entered the conference room. "I know this violates several treaties, but circumstances have made formal contact necessary." "What circumstances?" asked the crystalline ambassador. Dr. Kim activated a holographic projector that he had brought with him. The display showed a view of the galactic core that was far more detailed than anything the monitoring station sensors could produce. 3 months ago, our deep space monitoring arrays detected an anomaly in the galactic core, he explained. "Something is emerging from the central black hole region. Something that should not exist." The display zoomed in to show massive structures near the galaxy's center. They were clearly artificial, but they did not match any known architectural style. "We call them the Devourers," Dr. Kim continued. "They appear to be some kind of automated system designed to harvest stellar energy on a massive scale. They are systematically destroying star systems and converting the matter into some kind of construction material." "How many systems have been destroyed?" asked Zyphthalios. 17 so far. At their current rate of expansion, they will reach inhabited space within 50 years. The room fell silent. Everyone was staring at the holographic display showing the advancing threat. "Why did you not warn us immediately?" demanded the Draconian general. "Because we hoped we could handle the situation without involving anyone else," Dr. Kim replied honestly. "For 3,000 years we have tried to protect the galaxy without interfering in your affairs. We wanted to continue that policy." "But you cannot stop them alone?" "We are trying. Our fleet is currently engaging the Devourers near the galactic core. But they are more advanced than anything we have encountered before. They adapt to our weapons, they learn from our tactics, and they seem to have unlimited resources." Dr. Kim changed the display to show human ships fighting near the galactic core. Even to Kixthera's untrained eye, it was clear that the human forces were vastly outnumbered. "This is why we moved ships toward the galactic core," Dr. Kim explained. "We have been fighting this threat for months, trying to slow its advance while we develop new countermeasures." "And you have been losing?" asked Korthmagus. "We have been learning, but yes, we are fighting a losing battle. The Devourers are too numerous and too adaptable. We need help." The crystalline ambassador's voice chimed with disbelief. Humans need help? From us? Dr. Kim smiled sadly. We are advanced, but we are not all-powerful. The Devourers represent a threat that requires the combined resources of the entire galaxy to defeat. What kind of help do you need? Asked Zyphthalios. Industrial capacity. The Devourers can only be stopped by overwhelming force applied simultaneously across multiple star systems. We need every shipyard, every factory, every resource extraction facility in the galaxy working together. Dr. Kim paused and looked around the room. We need to end the isolation protocol. Permanently. The debate that followed was intense but brief. Everyone could see the threat represented by the Devourers, but many were still afraid of what full contact with humans might mean. How do we know this is not some elaborate deception? Asked the Draconian general. How do we know humans are not using this threat as an excuse to end their isolation? Dr. Kim's expression became serious. Because if we wanted to end our isolation through force, we would not need an excuse. We would simply do it. He activated another display showing detailed scans of human space. For 3,000 years we have been preparing for threats like the Devourers. Our industrial capacity exceeds the rest of the galaxy combined. Our military technology is centuries ahead of anything you have developed. If we wanted to conquer the galaxy, we could do it in a matter of months. The room went quiet again. Everyone was staring at the display showing massive human construction projects and fleets of advanced warships. But conquest has never been our goal, Dr. Kim continued. Survival has been our goal. And right now, survival requires cooperation. Kixathera spoke for the first time since the human had arrived. What happens after the Devourers are defeated? Do humans go back into isolation? Doctor? Kim looked at her with interest. You must be the cartographer who started this whole process. Commander Korthmagus mentioned you in his preliminary report. I just wanted to understand why the maps had blank spaces. And now you understand. The maps had blank spaces because we asked for them. But those blank spaces are about to disappear, forever. He turned to address the entire room. The galaxy is about to change. After we defeat the Devourers, humans will remain active in galactic affairs. We cannot go back to isolation, because the universe has proven that isolation is not enough. We need to work together to face whatever threats emerge next. And if we refuse to cooperate, asked the Draconian general. Then you will face the Devourers alone, Dr. Kim replied simply. We will continue fighting them with our own resources, but we cannot guarantee success without galactic cooperation. The choice was clear. Work with humans and have a chance to survive or refuse their help and face extinction. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in 3,000 years, humanity would rejoin galactic civilization. But this time, they would not be the mysterious newcomers who adapted too quickly to alien technology. They would be the protectors who had spent millennia preparing for threats that other species could barely imagine. As the meeting ended, and representatives began making arrangements for the largest military mobilization in galactic history, Kixathera realized that her simple question about blank spaces on maps had changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same, but at least now it had a chance to survive. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human leadership had begun, and somewhere in the deep reaches of space the Devourers continued their advance, unaware that they were about to face the combined might of a galaxy, united under the guidance of a species that had spent 3,000 years learning how to win impossible wars. The maps would need to be redrawn, but this time, human space would not be blank. It would be clearly marked as the center of a new. Commander Korthmagus did not arrest Kixathera and Vestareth as she had expected. Instead, he did something much more surprising. He called an emergency meeting. Your timing is interesting, cartographer, he said, as he led them to a secure conference room. We have been monitoring increased activity from human space for the past several months. The fact that you started asking questions about humans at the same time might not be a coincidence. The conference room was filled with representatives from every major species in the galaxy. Kixathera recognized crystalline hegemony ambassadors, draconian military officers, Zetarian scientists, and others she could not identify. Everyone looked tense. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored entities," Korthmagus began, "we have a situation that requires immediate discussion. This young Valtharian has been investigating human history. Her research coincides with unusual developments in human space." An elderly crystalline ambassador spoke first. Its voice was like the sound of wind chimes. "The archive's security breach was detected 3 days ago. We have been monitoring the situation." "You have been watching me?" Kixathera asked. "We watch everyone who asks questions about humans," replied a draconian general. "It happens more often than you might think. Usually people give up when they realize how dangerous the knowledge is. But you did not give up," added a Zetarian scientist named Zyphthalios. "You kept digging. You found the monitoring stations. That shows unusual determination." Korthmagus activated a holographic display showing human space. "For the past 6 months, our sensors have detected massive energy signatures from the human home systems. Construction activity on a scale we have never seen before, and 3 days ago, something unprecedented happened." The display zoomed in to show the edge of human territory. "We detected human ships moving for the first time in over 1,000 years." The room fell silent. Even Kixathara could understand why that was significant. "How many ships?" asked the crystalline ambassador. "We are not sure," Korthmagus replied. "Our sensors can barely detect them. Their stealth technology is far beyond anything we have seen. But we estimate at least 50 vessels, possibly more." "Moving where?" asked the draconian general. "That is the problem. They are not moving toward galactic space, they are moving inward toward the galactic core." Zyphthalios leaned forward. "The galactic core is mostly unexplored. Why would humans be interested in that region?" "We do not know, but humans do not do anything without a good reason." Korthmagus changed the display to show historical data. "This is not the first time human activity has increased. Every few centuries we detect massive construction projects in human space. Huge energy expenditures, material movements, fleet deployments. Then everything goes quiet again." "It is like they are building for something specific," the crystalline ambassador observed. "But what?" "That is what we need to discuss," Korthmagus said. "Because I believe the time has come to break the most important treaty in galactic history." Everyone in the room began talking at once. The noise was overwhelming until the draconian general slammed his fist on the table. "You are talking about direct contact with humans," he said. "That violates the isolation protocol." "The isolation protocol was created 3,000 years ago," Korthmagus replied. "The galaxy was different then. We were different then. Maybe it is time to reconsider." Zyphthalios spoke carefully. "Contact with humans would require unanimous agreement from all major species. It has never even been seriously discussed." "Because we have been too afraid," said the crystalline ambassador. "But fear is not a good basis for policy." Kixathera listened to the debate with growing confusion. "Excuse me," she said finally, "but why are you discussing this in front of me? I am just a cartographer." The room went quiet again. Korthmagus smiled sadly. "Because you are the first person in 3,000 years to ask questions about humans without being ordered to stop. Your investigation has convinced us that the time for secrecy might be ending." He gestured to the other representatives. "Everyone in this room knows the truth about humans. They are not just another species. They are something unique in the galaxy. Something that could be either our greatest hope or our greatest threat." "What do you mean?" Zyphthalios answered. "My species has existed for over 10 million years. We have seen thousands of civilizations rise and fall. Most species follow predictable patterns. They expand, they conquer, they collapse, they disappear. But humans are different. How? They do not expand to conquer. They expand to survive. Every human colony, every human space station, every human ship serves one purpose: ensuring their species can survive any possible catastrophe." The crystalline ambassador's voice chimed softly. "Our analysts have studied human behavior for millennia. They do not just prepare for known threats. They prepare for threats that might not exist yet." "What kind of threats?" "Any kind," the draconian General said grimly. Solar flares that could sterilize planets, asteroid impacts that could crack worlds, alien invasions, galactic wars, even cosmic events like supernova explosions or gamma-ray bursts. Korthmagus activated another display. 3,000 years ago, humans showed us their basic planetary defense technology. We thought it was excessive, but our scientists have since realized something important. What? The universe is more dangerous than we thought. In the past 3 millennia, our long-range sensors have detected dozens of cosmic events that could threaten entire star systems. Gamma-ray bursts from distant galaxies, rogue black holes moving through space, dark matter fluctuations that could destabilize solar systems. But none of those events have reached our part of the galaxy, Kixathera pointed out. Exactly, Siphthalio said quietly. None of them have reached us, but they have all mysteriously changed course or lost energy before they could cause damage. The Piu. Room fell silent as the implications sank in. You think humans have been protecting the galaxy? Kixathera asked. We think humans have been doing what they always do, Korthmagus replied. Preparing for survival. But their definition of survival includes making sure the galaxy remains habitable. He changed the display to show a timeline of cosmic events over the past 3,000 years. Every major threat to galactic civilization has been neutralized before it could cause damage. Asteroid swarms deflected, radiation bursts absorbed, potentially hostile alien signals from outside the galaxy have simply stopped. The humans have been protecting everyone without telling them, the crystalline ambassador concluded. But why? Kixathera asked. Why would they protect species that fear them? Because that is what humans do, the Draconian general said. They do not just ensure their own survival, they ensure the survival of everything around them, even if those things consider them enemies. Siphthalio stood up and walked to the window overlooking human space. My species' oldest records contain a warning from our first contact with humans. It said, beware the species that plans for threats that do not yet exist. They will either save the universe or conquer it. Which do you think it will be? Kixathera asked. Both, Korthmagus said simply. To save the universe, they might have to conquer it first. He turned to address the entire room. This is why we need to make contact. If humans are moving ships toward the galactic core, they have detected a threat that we cannot see, something that requires their intervention. Or, they are finally making their move to expand, the Draconian general countered. No, Siphthalio said firmly. I have studied human behavior for centuries. They do not expand without reason. If they are moving ships, it is because they have to. Korthmagus nodded, which means the galaxy is facing a threat so serious that humans are willing to risk exposure to deal with it. He looked around the room at each representative. The question is, do we want to face that threat with human help, or do we want to face it alone? The debate that followed lasted for hours. In the end, they reached a decision that would change galactic history forever. They would send a message to human space. For the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy would attempt to contact humanity, and Kixathera, a simple cartographer, who had started by questioning blank spaces on maps, would be the one to deliver that message. After her meeting with Jek Kolos, Kixathera could not stop thinking about what he had told her. The humans had not been banished. They had chosen to leave. They had voluntarily isolated themselves to protect other species. But that raised even more questions. She spent several days on Graxis 7 trying to decide what to do next. Part of her wanted to forget everything and return to her quiet life as a cartographer. But a bigger part of her needed to know more. If humans were still out there, what were they doing? Were they really as dangerous as everyone seemed to think? The answer came when she overheard a conversation in the same cantina where she had met Jek Kolos. Two Draconian traders were talking quietly in a corner booth. The patrol routes have changed again, one of them was saying. Command wants us to stay at least 50 parsecs away from Sector 47. That is the third time this year, the other replied. Something has them spooked. I heard rumors, strange signals coming from the empty zones. Ships that appear on sensors but vanish before anyone can get close. Kixathera moved closer, pretending to study the drink menu. The Draconians continued talking. My cousin works for the Defense Ministry, the first trader said. He told me that every major species has monitoring stations watching the human borders. They have been there for thousands of years. Monitoring stations? I thought that space was empty. That is what they want everyone to think. But there are always ships out there. Always watching, always ready to run if anything comes out of human space. The second Draconian laughed nervously. You make it sound like they are expecting an invasion. Maybe they are. My cousin says the monitoring stations are not just watching for humans coming out. They are early warning systems. If humans ever decide to expand beyond their borders, every species in the galaxy will know about it within hours. Kixathera left the cantina with a new plan. She needed to see these monitoring stations for herself. If they existed, they would prove that the empty space on the maps was not empty at all. It took her 3 days to find a ship willing to take her to the border regions. The captain was a Mordelian smuggler named Vestan, who asked no questions as long as she paid well. His ship was fast and had good sensors, perfect for what she needed. You sure you want to go to Sector 47? Vestan asked as they left. Graxis 7. Nothing out there but empty space and radiation storms. I am doing research on cosmic background radiation, Kixathera lied. I need readings from areas without much ship traffic. Vestan shrugged. Your money, your choice, but we stay on the edge of the sector. I do not go into the deep empty zones. Too dangerous. The journey took 2 days. As they approached Sector 47, Kixathera spent most of her time studying the sensor readings. At first, everything looked normal. Empty space, distant stars, the usual background noise of a quiet region. But as they got closer to the coordinates that should have marked the edge of human space, things began to change. The ship's sensors started picking up strange signals. Not distress calls or communication signals, something else. Regular, pulsing transmissions that seemed to be scanning the area. Captain, Kixathera called out, are you seeing these sensor readings? Vestan looked at his instruments and frowned. That is odd. Looks like some kind of automated beacon. But there should not be anything out here. Can we get closer? I suppose. But if this turns out to be some kind of trap, you are paying for my funeral. They moved slowly toward the source of the signals. As they got closer, their sensors revealed something that should not have existed according to the official maps. There was a space station floating in the void, completely hidden from normal shipping lanes. The station was unlike anything Kixathera had ever seen. It was built from technology from multiple species, crystalline energy cores, draconian hull, plating, Zeterian sensor arrays, and other components she could not identify. It was as if representatives from every major civilization had worked together to build it. What is that thing? Vestan whispered. Before Kixathera could answer, their communication system activated. A voice spoke in perfect Mordelian. Unknown. Vessel, you have entered a restricted monitoring zone. State your purpose immediately. Vestan looked panicked. This is the cargo ship Lucky Break. We are conducting scientific research. We did not know this area was restricted. Stand by for inspection, the voice replied. A small ship launched from the station and moved toward them quickly. It was sleek and fast with weapon systems that Kixathera had never seen before. Captain Vestan, the voice continued, your ship is registered as a civilian cargo vessel. Please explain why you are carrying advanced sensor equipment typically used by intelligence agencies. Kixathera looked at the ship's sensors in surprise. She had not known they were military grade. Vestan avoided her eyes. The equipment is for cosmic radiation research, Vestan said weakly. Negative. Your sensors are configured for deep space reconnaissance and stealth detection. You will dock with our station immediately for questioning. The alien ship took position alongside them, making it clear that resistance was not an option. Vestan guided the Lucky Break to a docking port on the strange station. As they docked, Kixathera realized that this was exactly what she had been looking for. This station was proof that the galaxy was actively monitoring human space. But she was about to find out much more than she had bargained for. The station commander who met them at the airlock was a Zelthian military officer named Korth Magus. He was tall and imposing, with the kind of bearing that came from years of command experience. "I am Commander Korth Magus of the Joint Monitoring Station Beta 7, he said formally. "You are in violation of several Confederation security protocols." "We did not know," Vestareth began. "Your ship is equipped with sensor arrays capable of penetrating stealth fields and detecting ships at extreme range," Korth Magus interrupted. "Either you are spies, or you are smugglers with very expensive equipment." He looked directly at Kixthara. "And you, young Viletharian, match the description of someone who recently broke into the Confederation archives and stole classified information about historical events." Kixthara felt her heart sink. They had been tracking her all along. "I am a cartographer," she said. "I was just trying to understand why certain areas were marked as empty when they clearly contained star systems." Korth Magus studied her for a long moment. "A cartographer, how ironic." He gestured for them to follow him deeper into the station. "Come, there are things you need to see." The station was larger than it had appeared from outside. Corridors stretched in multiple directions filled with personnel from dozens of different species. Everyone looked military, and everyone looked worried. Korth Magus led them to an observation deck with large windows facing toward the interior of the galaxy. "Tell me, cartographer, what do you see out there?" Kixthara looked out the windows. She saw stars, nebulae, and empty space. "I see normal space, nothing unusual. Look more carefully." Korth Magus activated a control panel, and the windows switched to enhanced sensor view. Suddenly, the empty space was filled with structures: space stations, automated platforms, sensor arrays, and what looked like defensive installations. "This is one of 47 monitoring stations positioned around the perimeter of human space," Korth Magus explained. "Each one is jointly operated by all major galactic civilizations. We have been here for over 3,000 years. "Watching for what?" Kixthara asked. "Watching for signs that humans are about to come back." Korth Magus led them to a tactical display that showed the entire region around human space. It was covered with sensor networks, patrol routes, and communication relays. "You see, cartographer, the empty space on your maps is not empty at all. It is the most heavily monitored region in the galaxy. Every ship that approaches human space is tracked. Every signal that comes from human territory is analyzed. Every movement is recorded and reported to the high commands of every major species." "But why? The humans chose to leave peacefully." "Because we know humans better than you do," Korth Magus replied grimly. "They did not leave to hide from us. They left to prepare." He activated another display showing historical data. "For 3,000 years we have been watching human space. In that time, we have detected massive construction projects, energy signatures that dwarf anything we can produce, and technological developments that we cannot even begin to understand. They are building something? They are building everything. Ships, space stations, planetary defense systems, technologies that we can barely detect, let alone comprehend. They have had 3 millennia of isolation to advance their civilization without any outside interference." Korth Magus paused and looked directly at her. "Do you know what my species historians say about humans? They say humans are the only species that fights wars against problems that have not happened yet. While we react to crises, humans prepare for crises that might occur centuries in the future." He gestured toward the sensor displays. "Out there, beyond our monitoring range, humans have been preparing for something for 3,000 years. We do not know what they are preparing for, but we know they are getting ready." "Ready for what?" "That is what terrifies us. Humans do not just survive, they make sure they can survive anything. They look at the universe and ask, what is the worst possible thing?" Kixthara did not return to work the next day, or the day after that. She knew that her access to the restricted archives had been discovered. It was only a matter of time before security came looking for her. Instead, she used her savings to book passage on a cargo ship heading to the Outer Rim. She needed to find someone who knew the real truth about humans, someone who had been alive during the time of contact. The ship took her to Graxis 7th, a small moon that existed outside Confederation law. It was the kind of place where criminals, smugglers, and exiles gathered. If anyone knew forbidden knowledge, it would be someone here. The cargo ship captain, a gruff Mordelian named Kresh, had been curious about why such a young Valtharian wanted to visit such a dangerous place. Kixthera had told him she was researching old trade routes. It was not exactly a lie. Graxis 7 was even worse than she had expected. The air was thick and smelled bad. The buildings were old and falling apart. The streets were full of aliens, from dozens of species, most of them looking like they had something to hide. Kixithara spent her first day just walking around, listening to conversations in the bars and markets. She was looking for someone specific, an exiled Confederation admiral named Jek Kolos. According to the information she had found, he had been dismissed from the military for asking inappropriate questions about historical events. She found him on her second day, sitting alone in a dark corner of a cantina called the Broken Star. Jek Kolos was a Hectarian, a species known for their long lives and excellent memories. He looked old, even by Hectarian standards. His once blue skin had faded to gray and his 6 eyes looked tired. Kixthera approached his table carefully. "Admiral Jek Kolos?" He looked up at her with suspicion. "I have not been an admiral for a long time. What do you want?" "Information," she said simply. "I am willing to pay for it." "What kind of information?" Kixithera sat down across from him and pulled out a small data crystal. "I have detailed star charts for the Andromeda spiral arm. Very accurate, very valuable. I will trade them for answers to some questions." Jekakolos examined the data crystal with a small scanner. His tired eyes became more interested. "These charts are indeed valuable. What do you want to know?" "I want to know about humans." The cantina was noisy, but somehow Kixithara felt like everything had gone quiet. Jekakolos stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked around the room to make sure no one was listening. "That is a dangerous question," he said finally. "I have already learned that, but I need to know the truth." Jekakolos picked up the data crystal and put it in his pocket. "Very well, but we do not talk here. Too many ears. Meet me at docking, Bay 7 in 1 hour. Come alone." An hour later, Kixithara found herself in the cargo hold of Jek Kolos's old ship. The vessel looked like it had seen better days, but it was private and secure. "Before I tell you about humans," Jekakolos said, "you need to understand how the galaxy worked 3,000 years ago. It was very different then." He activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy as it had been in ancient times. Back then, species actually talked to each other. We traded freely. We shared technology. We even fought wars openly instead of hiding behind proxy conflicts. The display changed to show various alien species. Humans were discovered by a Zelthian exploration team. They were a young species, barely out of their home solar system. We expected them to be primitive and backward, like most newly discovered civilizations. But they were not? Kixthera asked. "Oh, they were primitive." Jekakolos laughed bitterly. "Their ships were slow. Their weapons were crude. Their technology was basic. But that did not matter. Within 10 years of first contact, they had learned everything we could teach them. And then they started improving on it." The holographic display showed human ships that looked strange and different from other species' vessels. Humans did not just copy our technology. They understood it. They saw flaws that we had never noticed. They found ways to make everything work better. "That sounds helpful," Kixthera said. It was helpful. At first. Jekakolos's expression darkened. The problem was not what they did. It was how fast they did it. A technology that took us centuries to develop, they could master in years. Improvements that our best scientists might discover over decades, they found in weeks. The display changed to show various technological developments. They revolutionized space travel. They solved energy problems that had puzzled us for millennia. They showed us new ways to terraform planets, to build space stations, to communicate across vast distances. So what went wrong? Jack Kolos was quiet for a moment. What went wrong was that we started to realize what humans actually were. We had thought they were just another intelligent species. But they were something else entirely. What do you mean? Humans were not just smart. They were adaptable in ways that scared everyone. Every other species in the galaxy had evolved for specific environments, specific ways of thinking. Humans had evolved to survive anything. The holographic display showed Earth, the human home world. Look at their planet, Jack Kolos said. It is a death trap. Extreme weather, dangerous animals, natural disasters, diseases that kill millions. Any reasonable species would have died out or left for somewhere safer. But humans did not. No. They adapted. They learned to survive ice ages and volcanic eruptions. They learned to fight off diseases and predators. They learned to live in deserts and jungles and frozen wastelands. Their entire evolution was shaped by constant crisis. Kixthara began to understand. So when they encountered galactic civilization, they saw it as just another environment to adapt to. They learned our languages, our customs, our technologies. They made friends with everyone. They seemed perfect galactic citizens. But Jekalos's expression became grim. But we started to notice things, small things at first. Humans always ask questions about defensive capabilities. They wanted to know about every species' military strength, not to attack but to understand potential threats. They studied our weapons, our tactics, our weaknesses. They were planning to attack? No, Jack Kolos said firmly. That is what made it so terrifying. They were not planning to attack anyone. They were planning to survive. To a human, understanding potential threats was as natural as breathing. They could not help themselves. The display changed to show various military encounters. We found out how good they were at survival during the Krelik raids. A group of pirates attacked a human trade convoy. 7 human ships against 60 Krelik dreadnoughts. The humans lost. The humans won, without firing a single shot. Kixthara stared at him. How is that possible? The humans had studied Krelik technology during peaceful trade meetings. They noticed what they called design flaws in the Krelik weapon systems. During the attack, they transmitted a simple signal that turned the Krelik weapons against their own ships. They had prepared for an attack. They had prepared for every possible attack, from every species they had ever met. It was not malicious. It was just how their minds worked. They could not meet a new species without automatically figuring out how to defend against them. Kixthara felt cold. So the other species became afraid? Terrified, Jekakolos confirmed. We realized that humans had been quietly analyzing every military force in the galaxy. They knew exactly how to defeat anyone who might threaten them. And they did it all while smiling and offering to help with our problems. But they never attacked anyone? Never. That was what made them so dangerous. They had the ability to conquer the galaxy, but they did not want to. They just wanted to survive and be left alone. But every day they stayed in galactic society, they became more dangerous to everyone else. The holographic display went dark. The final straw came when humans offered to help the Confederation develop better planetary defenses. They presented what they called their basic safety protocol to the Galactic Council. What was it? A list of simple technologies that would protect planets from asteroids, solar flares, and other natural disasters. The Council was interested until our scientists analyzed their proposals. Jekakolos looked directly at Kixthara. The humans' idea of basic planetary defense included weapons that could crack moons, deflect stars, and create pocket dimensions for evacuating entire populations. What they considered simple safety measures could destroy entire solar systems. And they offered to share this technology? They offered to teach it to everyone. They seemed genuinely confused when the Council rejected their proposal. To them, these were just common-sense precautions. They could not understand why anyone would not want to be as safe as possible. Kixthara sat in stunned silence. So what happened? The Galactic Council met in emergency session. For the first time in history, every species agreed on something. Humans were too dangerous to remain in galactic society, not because they were evil, but because they were too good at survival. So they were banished? No, Giacomo said sadly. They were asked to leave, and they agreed. The humans understood that their presence was destabilizing the balance of power. So they proposed the isolation protocol themselves. They chose to leave. They chose to protect the galaxy from themselves. The last message from the Terran Federation was simple. We understand your concerns. We will withdraw from galactic affairs for the safety of all. 3 days later, Kixthera made her move. She had spent those days pretending to work on asteroid charts while secretly learning about the building's layout. The Confederation Central Archives were huge, with dozens of levels above ground and several more below. Most employees never went to the lower levels. They were old, dark, and filled with data that nobody looked at anymore. Kixthera waited until late at night when most of the building was empty. She used her employee access card to take the elevator down to sublevel 3. This was as far as her normal clearance would let her go. But Velandra had given her a tip. There were maintenance tunnels that went even deeper. The third sublevel was dusty and quiet. Old computer servers hummed in the darkness. Kixthera found the maintenance tunnel exactly where Velandra had said it would be. The door was locked, but the lock was old and simple. She used a basic code-breaking tool that most cartographers carried for accessing old survey equipment. The tunnel was narrow and dark. Kixthera had to crawl for several minutes before she found another door. This one led to sublevel 5, a place that was not supposed to exist according to the building plans. The room beyond was unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls were covered with ancient computer interfaces from dozens of different species. Some of the technology was so old that she did not recognize it at all. In the center of the room sat a massive data core that looked like it had been built piece by piece over thousands of years. Kixthera approached the main interface carefully. The screen was dark, but when she touched it, lights began to flicker. Text appeared in several different languages. She found one she could read: Historical Archive, Deep Storage, Restricted Access. She tried to log in using her normal credentials. The system rejected them. She tried several other access codes that she knew. Nothing worked. Just as she was about to give up, she remembered something Velandra had told her. Sometimes the oldest systems use the oldest passwords. Kixthera typed in Confederation, the most basic password anyone could think of. The system accepted it immediately. Welcome to Deep Historical Archive appeared on the screen. Warning: this data contains sensitive information. Access is logged and monitored. Kixthera's heart began to beat faster. If her access was being logged, someone would know she was here. But she had come too far to stop now. She searched for any files containing the word human. The results surprised her. There were thousands of references, all of them over 3,000 years old. She opened the first file she found. It was a trade agreement between something called the Terran Federation and the crystalline hegemony. The document was formal and boring, talking about exchanging rare minerals for advanced computer systems. But one line caught her attention. The Terran Federation agrees to share gravitational manipulation technology in exchange for quantum processing cores. Gravitational manipulation. Kixthera had studied physics in school. Controlling gravity was considered impossible by most species. Only the most advanced civilizations had even theoretical ideas about how it might work. Yet here was a document suggesting that humans had been trading this technology like it was nothing special. She opened another file. This one was a report from a draconian science team that had visited something called Earth. The report was excited and worried at the same time. The humans have achieved what we thought was impossible. They have turned a desert into a garden in less than one rotation of their planet. Their terraforming technology is beyond anything we have seen. In 3 months, they created an entire ecosystem from nothing. When we asked how they did it, they seemed confused by our amazement. They said it was basic planetary engineering and offered to show us how to do it too. The report continued, "We must be careful. The humans do not seem to understand how advanced their own technology is. What they call simple solutions would take our best scientists decades to develop. They are either hiding their true capabilities, or they are naturally more advanced than any species we have encountered. Kixathera opened file after file. Each one told a similar story. Humans were friendly and helpful, but their technology was impossibly advanced. They could do things that other species considered magic. Then she found something that made her blood run cold. It was a partial message log from a ship called the Harmony's Edge. The ship's captain was named Velandra, the same Velandra who had told her about this archive. But this message was 3,000 years old. Could it be the same person? Some species live that long, but not many. The message began normally. Day 15 of our diplomatic mission to the Terran Federation. The humans have been very welcoming. They are eager to share their knowledge and learn about our cultures. Their capital city is beautiful. They have somehow made their buildings float in the air without any visible support. The tone of the messages changed as they continued. Day 23. I am beginning to understand why some species are nervous. About the humans. Today they showed us their planetary defense systems. What they call basic protection includes weapons that could crack a moon in half. When I asked if they were worried about invasion, they looked confused. They said they were more worried about asteroids and solar flares. The messages became more urgent. Day 31. The humans offered to help us improve our own defense systems. They looked at our most advanced warships and immediately saw dozens of ways to make them better. Not just a little better, they could make our ships 10 times more powerful with simple modifications. They seemed to think this was obvious. Thesio. Final message was incomplete. Day 37. I finally understand what makes the humans so frightening. It is not their technology, though that is impressive enough. It is how they think. We plan for conquest, for resources, for territory. They plan for survival. Every innovation they make serves one purpose, ensuring their species can survive anything the universe throws at them. They are not just tool users. They are tool makers. They do not adapt to their environment, they make their environment adapt to them. We need to warn the Confederation that the message cut off there. The rest of the file was corrupted. Kixathera sat back in her chair, trying to understand what she had read. The humans sounded helpful and friendly, but they were also impossibly advanced. So advanced that even their basic technology scared other species. She searched for more recent files about humans, but found almost nothing. It was as if they had simply vanished from galactic records around 3,000 years ago. The last file she could find was a single line in a Confederation Council meeting report. Motion passed. Implementation of Protocol 2847 regarding Terran Federation. All members agree to revise navigation standards. Protocol 2847. Kixathera searched for that specifically. She found the full document, and when she read it, everything began to make sense. The protocol was a formal agreement between every major species in the galaxy. They all agreed to mark human space as empty on all navigation charts. Ships were to avoid the area completely. Trade with humans was banned. All contact was forbidden, but the most shocking part was who had proposed the protocol. It was not the other species who were afraid of humans. The humans had proposed it themselves. According to the document, representatives from the Terran Federation had come to the Galactic Council with a formal request. They wanted to be left alone. They asked that all other species treat human space as if it did not exist. The reason given was simple: for the safety and stability of all galactic civilizations. Kixathera read that line several times. The humans had not been banished or defeated. They had voluntarily removed themselves from galactic society, and every other species had agreed to pretend they did not exist. Why would they do that? What could be so dangerous about humans that they felt the need to hide from the galaxy? She was still reading when alarms began to sound throughout the building. Red lights flashed on the ancient computer systems. Text appeared on her screen. Security breach detected. Lockdown initiated. Kixathera had been discovered. She quickly copied as many files as she could to a portable storage device. The alarms were getting louder. She could hear voices and footsteps in the tunnels above her. The computer screen flickered and went dark. Emergency lighting came on, bathing the room in an eerie red glow. A mechanical voice began speaking. "This area is now sealed. Remain where you are. Security personnel are en route." Kixthera looked around frantically. There had to be another way out. In the red emergency lighting, she spotted a ventilation grate near the floor. It was small, but she might be able to fit through it. She grabbed her storage device and squeezed through the grate, just as she heard the door to the archive room opening. Security guards were shouting instructions to each other. They had missed her by seconds. The ventilation shaft was cramped and dark, but it led upward. Kixthera crawled for what felt like hours before she finally emerged in a bathroom on the main level of the building. She cleaned herself up, hid the storage device in her clothing, and walked calmly to the exit. The security guards at the entrance looked stressed, but they did not stop her. As far as they knew, she was just another employee leaving work late. Once she was safely away from the building, Kixthera looked back at the towering archives. She had risked everything to learn the